Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Trump says EU tariff deal 100% guaranteed as he hosts Italian Prime Minister Meloni at White House. Meloni invites Trump to visit Rome. Trump says US was in talks with China on tariffs, expresses confidence that the US would reach a trade agreement with China soon.
I would think over the next 3 or 4 weeks, I think maybe the whole thing could be concluded.
Trump announces April 24th as the new date to sign Ukraine minerals deal. Memorandum of intent signed between US and Ukraine on rare earths deal. Hamas rejects Israel's latest truce proposal, says ready to release all hostages in return for an end to Gaza conflict, release of Palestinians jailed by Israel and reconstruction of Gaza. Christians around the globe observe Good Friday to commemorate the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Giorgia Meloni had been welcomed to the White House with open arms, as few other foreign visitors had been since Donald Trump's return, and she took the opportunity to assure her host that they were on the same side when it came to one existential struggle. We get to the details in our next report.
US President Donald Trump and Giorgia Meloni hit an optimistic note and expressed confidence that the United States and Europe will be able to negotiate a trade deal before his 90-day pause on some tariffs ends. The two leaders struck a warm tone during a working lunch and a meeting in the Oval Office. Trump said he was 100% certain of an eventual trade deal with Europe.
Oh, there'll be a trade deal, 100%. Oh, well, you think there won't be? Of course there'll be a trade deal, very much. They want to make one very, very much, and we're going to make a trade deal. I fully expect it, but it'll be a fair deal.
Meloni positioned herself as an intermediary between the United States and Europe and was equally confident of the deal. The Italian leader said Trump had accepted an invitation to visit Rome in the near future, and he might also meet European leaders there.
Somebody calls me such a Western nationalism. I don't know if it is the right word, but I'm sure that together we are stronger. And I have to find a way. I'm here to find the best way to make us both stronger on the two shores of the Atlantic.
Besides, the two leaders also discussed defense spending and immigration, on which Trump praised her Italian leader for her strong-armed approach to immigration in Italy, calling her an example for the rest of Europe. A European Commission spokeswoman said that while the EU alone could negotiate trade agreements, Meloni's outreach is very welcome and was coordinated with Brussels. Following Thursday's meeting with Trump, Meloni will fly back to Rome on Friday in time to host US Vice President J.D. Vance, with whom she had a meeting planned. Bureau Report, DD India.
A day after saying that the ball is in China's court, Trump on Thursday signaled a potential end to the tit-for-tat tariff hikes that shocked the markets. Speaking at the Oval Office, Trump said that the two sides are in talks to make a deal on tariffs and that it can be made over the next 3 or 4 weeks. The president stressed on having a good relation with his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping.
I have a very good relationship with President Xi, and I think it's going to continue. And I would say they have reached out a number of times.
Xi or they?
Well, the same. I view it very similar. It would be top levels of China. And if you knew him, you would know that if they reached out, he knew exactly. He knew everything about it. He runs it very tight, very strong, very smart. And yeah, we're talking to China.
Meanwhile, even as Trump signals easing of tariff tensions with China, the United States unveiled new port fee on Chinese-built and operated ships on Thursday. U.S. Trade Representative Jamison Greer said in a statement announcing the new fee that ships and shipping are vital to American economic security and the free flow of commerce. Under the new rule, per tonnage fee will apply to each Chinese-linked ship's U.S. voyage, not at each port as some in the sector had worried, up to 5 times per year. There will be separate fee for Chinese-operated ships and Chinese-built ships, and both will gradually increase over subsequent years. Most of the fee will begin in mid-October. The industry backlashed on the announcement, following which the domestic exporters and vessel owners servicing the Great Lakes, the Caribbean and U.S. territories have been exempted. Ukraine and the United States on Thursday signed a memorandum as an initial step towards the clinching of an agreement on developing minerals in Ukraine. Kyiv's first Deputy Prime Minister and Economy Minister, Yulia Sviridenko, did not publish details of the memorandum but said that work continued towards securing a final agreement. Kyiv and Washington had discussed signing a deal on extracting Ukraine's strategic minerals in February, but a clash between U.S. President Trump and Ukraine's President Zelensky temporarily derailed work on the agreement. Trump administration appears to have softened the stand on minerals deal with Ukraine. Trump said that he wants the deal designed to give the U.S. royalty payments on profits from Ukrainian mining of resources and rare minerals.
Well, we have a minerals deal, which I guess is going to be signed on Thursday, Scott, next Thursday, soon. And I assume they're going to live up to the deal, so we'll see. But we have a deal on that. No, I have no comment on that. I have no idea. That's his statement, not mine.
High-stakes diplomacy unfolded in Paris as U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met French President Emmanuel Macron amid mounting European concern over Washington's outreach to Moscow. Talks involving U.S., EU and Ukrainian officials came at a pivotal moment in triangular diplomacy with Russia. While the Kremlin has welcomed the dialogue, it accuses Ukraine of violating the pause on energy strikes.
Amid the high-level diplomatic maneuvers and growing European unease over Washington's friendly gestures to Moscow, a pivotal meeting took place in Paris on Thursday. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met French President Emmanuel Macron to discuss the deepening Ukraine crisis. Also, ahead of the talks in Paris, U.S. President Donald Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, met European diplomats. The high-stakes talks involving US, EU and Ukrainian officials come at a critical juncture in the triangular diplomacy unfolding between Washington, Moscow and Kyiv. Meanwhile, Russia's top economic negotiator Kirill Dmitriev says certain countries are trying to derail Moscow's talks with the United States as the two sides work towards normalizing ties.
You know, the meeting was extremely productive, but as I said before, many people, structures and countries are trying to disrupt our dialogue with the United States. There is very active propaganda against Russia in the United States in various mass media, so it is very important to convey the Russian position directly, and this was certainly done, and a very useful dialogue is underway.
Europe is increasingly concerned over US outreach to Moscow amid stalled efforts by Trump to broker a ceasefire. Both Russia and US have been holding comprehensive talks. Kremlin said that meeting between US, Ukraine and European countries in Paris is a chance for US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to inform them of the current status of talks.
Apparently, various aspects of Ukrainian settlement will be discussed during a meeting between the US, Ukraine and European countries in Paris. We had with Mr. Witkoff, our President Vladimir Putin has recently a very lengthy conversation. We know that the content of this conversation has been reported to the US President Donald Trump.
Russia has also accused Ukraine of daily violations of US-brokered moratorium on striking energy infrastructure, claiming a total of 80 such attacks since the pause took effect. Amid continued strikes by both sides, a large explosion occurred in Russia's town of Shuya, following reports of Ukrainian drone attacks. Video posted on social media Wednesday captured the moment of the blast. Meanwhile, a Russian mass drone strike reportedly killed 3 people Wednesday evening in the southeastern Ukrainian city of Dnipro. Ravindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
Russian President Vladimir Putin held talks at the Kremlin on Thursday with Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. Araghchi arrived in Moscow at the invitation of his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov for a two-day visit. The meeting was also attended by Yuri Ushakov, an aide to the Russian president, and Qasem Jalali, Iranian ambassador to Russia. Araghchi said that he was there to deliver a message from Iran's leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, to President Putin. He explained that the message concerns international and regional developments as well as bilateral issues. The Trump administration and Iran held talks in Oman last weekend that both sides described as positive and constructive. A second round of talks is set to take place in Rome this weekend. Hamas on Thursday rejected Israel's latest proposal of partial Gaza truce. In a televised speech, Khalil al-Haya, who leads the Hamas negotiating team for indirect talks with Israel, said the group refused an interim truce deal. He said that Hamas was ready to immediately negotiate a deal to swap all hostages for an agreed number of Palestinians jailed by Israel and the reconstruction of Gaza as part of a broader deal to end the conflict. The Egyptian mediators have been working to revive the January ceasefire agreement that halted fighting in Gaza before breaking down last month, but there has been little sign of progress, with both Israel and Hamas blaming each other for the lack of a deal. Israel restarted its offensive in Gaza in March, and talks to try to restore the ceasefire have so far failed to achieve a breakthrough. Tension between US and Yemen further escalated as the United States military struck the Ras Isa fuel port in western Yemen to cut off a source of fuel for Iran-backed Houthi militants. A Houthi health ministry spokesman said on social media platform X that the attack killed at least 38 people and injured dozens of the port's workers. The US began large-scale strikes last month against Iran-aligned Houthis, saying it won't stop unless they cease their attacks on Red Sea shipping. The US Supreme Court will hear arguments on May 15th regarding President Trump's executive order restricting automatic birthright citizenship. The executive order, signed on January 20th during Trump's return to office, directs federal agencies to deny citizenship to children born in the United States unless at least one parent is a US citizen or lawful permanent resident. Federal judges in 3 different states blocked Trump's order, and it will remain halted while the court considers the case. After the Supreme Court's announcement, Trump said that the case over his executive order to restrict automatic birthright citizenship is easy to win.
I think the case has been so misunderstood. That case, birthright citizenship, is about slavery. If you look at the details of it, the signings of it, everything else, that case is all about slavery. And if you view it from that standpoint, people understand it. But for some reason, lawyers don't talk about it. The news doesn't talk about it. That's not about tourists coming in and touching a piece of sand and all of a sudden they're a citizenship. They're a citizen.
Students, educators and activists rallied at Foley Square in Manhattan on Thursday to defend academic freedom and protest what they described as political repression, censorship and attacks on higher education under US President Donald Trump. Trump has called the protests anti-American and anti-Semitic and accused universities of peddling Marxism and radical left ideology. On Thursday, he called Harvard, an institution he has criticized repeatedly this week, a disgrace, and also criticized others. The Trump administration said late last month that it was reviewing $9 billion in federal contracts and grants to Harvard, and later called for restrictions, including a mask ban and removal of diversity, equity and inclusion programs to be put in place for the university to continue receiving federal money. Harvard on Monday rejected numerous demands that it said would cede control to the government. The Trump administration subsequently said it was freezing $2.3 billion in funding. A U.S. appeals court urged the Trump administration on Thursday to back off from its escalating confrontation with the judiciary. Writing on behalf of a three-judge panel, U.S. Circuit Judge J. Harvey Wilkinson warned that both the executive and judicial branches will lose public confidence. The executive branch in the U.S. Constitution refers to its president. In a strongly worded unanimous opinion, the panel rejected President Trump's administration's request to stop a judge from probing what the government had done to secure the return of Kilmer Abrego Garcia, a migrant it acknowledged having wrongly deported to El Salvador. The panel of judges said Trump's claims to have the right to deport people without due process and in disregard of court orders would have implications beyond Garcia's case. U.S. District Judge Paula Shiniz in Maryland ordered U.S. officials to provide documents and answer questions under oath about what they had done to secure the return of Garcia. U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen on Thursday said that he had met with the Salvadoran man wrongfully deported to his home country by the Trump administration. Van Hollen had earlier said that he had been denied access to the prison where Washington had paid President Nayib Bukele millions to lock up nearly 300 migrants it says are criminals and gang members, including 29-year-old Kilmer Abrego Garcia. Van Hollen added that he would offer a full update upon his return to the United States. Abrego Garcia was detained in Maryland last month and expelled to El Salvador along with 238 Venezuelans and 22 fellow Salvadorans who were deported shortly after President Trump invoked a rarely used wartime authority. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, another shooting incident sends shockwaves across the U.S. A deputy sheriff's son kills two at a mass shooting incident at Florida State University. Resentencing hearing for Lyle and Eric Menendez serving life sentences for killing their parents in 1989 postponed. Switzerland, Italy and France bear the brunt of a massive snowstorm with emergency services pressed into action.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney faced sustained attacks from his Conservative rival at an election debate on Thursday, but the Liberal leader sought to focus attention on what he calls Canada's top threat, President Donald Trump. Most opinion polls show Pierre Poilievre's Conservative Party is trailing Carney's Liberals ahead of the April 28th vote, but the race remains tight and Poilievre worked hard at the debate to stem Liberal momentum that has picked up since Carney replaced Justin Trudeau as the Prime Minister on March 14th. As the campaign has evolved, Poilievre has increasingly sought to do both, condemning Trump while accusing the Liberals of weakening the economy during Trudeau's decade in power and leaving Canada vulnerable to hostile US policies. Poilievre, who has served in Parliament for 2 decades, consistently tried to brand Carney as an extension of Trudeau, who became deeply unpopular towards the end of his tenure. Chinese President Xi Jinping urged Cambodia to resist protectionism as he arrived in Phnom Penh on Thursday at the end of a three-nation tour of Southeast Asia, with U.S. tariffs threatening the economies of both the countries. In an article published in Cambodian media, Xi urged Phnom Penh to oppose hegemonism and protectionism. and repeated messages he sent earlier this week to Vietnam and Malaysia during the first two legs of his visit. Cambodia's government said late on Thursday that the two countries signed 37 documents during Xi's visit, including on investment, trade and finance, but it did not elaborate on content and on whether they entailed binding or financial commitments. Cambodia is a major exporter of clothing and footwear to the United States and was slapped with a U.S. import tax of 49%, one of the highest globally, before reciprocal duties were paused until July for most countries except those on China, which faces combined tariffs of 145%. United Nations held a press conference on the status of intergovernmental negotiations on reforms of the United Nations Security Council. Tariq al-Banai, the permanent representative of the intergovernmental negotiations, said during the conference that India is a contender for an expanded Security Council. He also said that the expanded Security Council may have up to 27 members and the expansion can be possible by 2030.
The goal of this reformed council must be representative, and obviously India is a main player on the world stage today, but it is a membership of 193 countries, right? And the consideration is representative for everybody and the whole membership of the United Nations. So surely if the decision is made that the expansion of the council goes to from anywhere from 21 to 27 members, then surely India will be a contender in that and will be subject to the decision of the wider membership.
Nearly half of the homes and businesses in Puerto Rico that receive electricity from the Commonwealth's main utility were still without power a day after the widespread blackout struck the island. Luma Energy said this in a statement. Puerto Rico's electrical system has continued to falter since two powerful hurricanes devastated Puerto Rico in 2017, decimating the grid and killing nearly 3,000 people, according to official estimates. On New Year's Eve last year, an underground power line was the most recent failure that led to island-wide blackouts. Following overnight aerial patrols with helicopters, Luma said a preliminary analysis suggested a number of factors had caused the power outage. Ecuador's leftist presidential challenger, Luisa Gonzalez, has said that she will formally challenge the result of Sunday's election, claiming widespread fraud despite losing support from a key allied party. Since Sunday, Gonzalez has alleged that there was grotesque fraud and said she would contest the results with the elections authority. According to electoral law, challenges must be submitted within 2 days of the vote count's conclusion. The electoral body has not yet responded, but previously stated that it would accept and review any formal complaints filed in accordance with the law. Official results show President Daniel Noboa leading by over 1 million votes, having won the runoff after a tight first-round contest in February.
All of these extremely serious findings will be challenged before the competent authorities, which are unfortunately currently under the control of those in power, as well as before all legal bodies that can assist us. This is to prevent Ecuador from becoming a country without peace, freedom, or democracy.
A deputy sheriff's son killed 2 people and wounded 4 others at Florida State University on Thursday before he was shot by officers and was hospitalized. Police believe the gunman, the son of a Leon County Sheriff's deputy, acted alone and a motive was not known. The suspect had access to his mother's handgun, which was once her service weapon. Responding police officers shot the gunman when he failed to obey the orders to surrender and took him into custody. The 4 wounded victims plus the gunman were taken to the hospital with gunshot wounds. Mass shootings on the U.S. school campuses have become recurring tragedies in recent years. Thursday's incident was the second shooting incident on the university campus in 11 years. U.S. President Donald Trump described the shooting as terrible and said that he had an obligation to protect the Second Amendment when asked if he saw a need for gun reform.
Only in terms of what happened. As far as legislation is concerned, this has been going on for a long time. I have an obligation to protect the Second Amendment. I ran on the Second Amendment, among many other things, and I will always protect the Second Amendment.
A Los Angeles judge has postponed the resentencing hearing for Lyle and Eric Menendez, who are serving life sentences for killing their parents in 1989. Instead, a motions hearing is scheduled for May 9th to hear arguments on the admissibility of state parole board risk assessment report. The brothers' attorney, Mark Garrigor, stated that he plans to file a motion to remove Hockman from the case. The postponed resentencing hearing could have made Lyle and Eric Menendez eligible for parole, potentially leading to their release after 35 years in prison. Both the brothers were convicted of first-degree murder of fatally shooting their parents in 1989. A U.S. man hijacked a small plane in Belize on Thursday, stabbing 2 passengers and a pilot before one of the stabbed passengers fatally shot him. The would-be hijacker threatened the pilot shortly after a small Tropic Air flight at Philip Goldson International Airport in the Central American nation took off in the morning with 14 people on board. It was headed for Belizean island of San Pedro, but the man ordered the pilot to head out of the country. The plane hovered for some time over the international airport of Belize City before landing just as it was about to run out of fuel, at which point the hijacker stabbed the 2 fellow passengers. One of the injured passengers had a firearm he was licensed to carry and shot the attacker dead. Heavy spring snow wreaks havoc across alpine regions in Switzerland, Italy and France, killing at least 1 person and injuring another while triggering widespread disruption. Emergency services across the 3 countries were pressed into action as more than a meter of snow fell within hours. Authorities ordered residents in high-risk areas to remain indoors due to risk of avalanches and falling trees. In France's Val Thorens resort, a woman suffered cardiac arrest after being buried in an avalanche. Severe rainfall hit northwestern Italy, triggering landslides and flooding. More than 400 firefighters were deployed to tackle the havoc. Over 300 interventions were carried out in the provinces of Turin and Biella, where the Elvo River burst its banks. An additional 14 units, including 5 from the Asti Command, were sent to assist in rescue operations and drainage efforts. In Turin and Ivrea, firefighters carried out around 90 interventions to secure dangerous trees and drained basements. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world now. The Frick collection reopened on Thursday after a 5-year, $220 million renovation. This is the largest in its history. The updates restored the main galleries, opened the Frick family's private quarter to the public for the first time, and reintroduced artworks in their original settings. A new 218-seat auditorium will debut later this month with a music festival. As one of the first animated films to explore the cultural obsession with sneakers, Sneaks is poised to make its theatrical US debut on April 18th. The film features an ensemble cast, including music stars Swelly, Ella Mann and Quavo, with original music by producer Mustard, who also takes on the role of executive music producer and voices a character too. NBA star Chris Paul and actor Lawrence Fishburne also appear in the film.
The other one. I've got to find that shoe!
Established in 1815 to meet the needs of the horses in Ottoman army, Anadolu Agricultural Enterprise stands out with the champion horses it still breeds today. Beyond its legacy, the initiative also plays a key role in agricultural development, livestock breeding and rural employment. You're watching DD India News. We're heading for a short break. But after the break, construction of 27 sewage treatment plants approved as part of a project focused on cleaning the Yamuna. It's a treat for tourists. Marking World Heritage Day, a visit to all ASI protected monuments will be free across India on April 18th. Respite from scorching heat soon. The Met Department predicts heavy rains in the eastern and northeastern states for the next 5 days. Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News. A quick relook at the top stories now. Trump says European Union tariff deal 100% guaranteed as he hosts the Italian Prime Minister Meloni at White House. Meloni invites Trump to visit Rome. Trump says US was in talks with China on tariffs, expresses confidence that the US would reach a trade agreement with China soon. Trump announces April 24th as the new date to sign Ukraine minerals deal. Memorandum of intent signed between US and Ukraine on rare earths deal. Hamas rejects Israel's latest truce proposal, says ready to release all hostages in return for an end to Gaza conflict, release of Palestinians jailed by Israel and reconstruction of Gaza. Christians around the globe observe Good Friday to commemorate the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Let's get to other stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a high-level meeting to review issues related to cleaning of the Yamuna River and Delhi's drinking water supply. Prime Minister affirmed that centre will work closely with the Delhi government to ensure world-class infrastructure and ease of living for the people of Delhi. On Tuesday, the government held its first Expenditure Finance Committee meeting for 2025-26 and approved a project focused on cleaning the Yamuna River. Under this project, the government approved the construction of 27 sewage treatment plants in the capital. Minister of State for External Affairs, Pabitra Margarita, had a productive discussion with his Malaysian counterpart, Datuk Mohammad Alamin, in Kuala Lumpur. During the meeting, both the leaders explored ways to take forward the comprehensive strategic partnership and also realized the shared vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Malaysian Prime Minister in strengthening the bilateral ties across various sectors. The ministers also exchanged perspectives on regional and global issues of mutual interest. India and China will soon resume direct air services, and technical teams from both sides are working out the operational details. Briefing the media on Thursday, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Randeep Jaiswal said that with both countries agreeing on in principle to restart the flights, operational modalities to resume direct air services soon are being worked out.
In principle, both countries have agreed that flight operations will resume. The technical teams on both sides are looking into the arrangement, the technical arrangements for the flight services to resume. The two civil aviation authorities have met and are discussing the relevant modalities, including the updated framework. So once this updated framework, which is a technical level discussion, arrangements between the civil aviation authorities of both sides, we will see this direct flight connectivity and air services connectivity between both countries restored.
The MEA spokesperson also announced that Mansarovar Yatra will soon resume.
The Yatra will happen this year, and we are making preparations, and more information would be put out for the public soon.
The MEA also hit out at Pakistan for distancing itself from 26/11 terror attacks, accused Tahawur Rana, recently handed over by the US to India, saying no matter how hard it tries, its image as the epicenter of global terrorism will not change.
Pakistan may try very hard, but its reputation as the epicenter of global terrorism will not diminish. The extradition of Rana is a reminder yet again to Pakistan that it needs to act to bring to justice other perpetrators of Mumbai terror attacks whom it continues to shield.
Defence Conclave 2025, Force of the Future, began in New Delhi on Thursday. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh delivered the keynote address in which he asserted that India is on the path of becoming self-reliant in defence with a strong industrial base that not only meets Indian needs but also exports to the world. He also warned that future conflicts will be unpredictable and will be fought in many domains such as cyber too. He expressed confidence that in the wake of uncertainty of global supply chains, India has emerged as a reliable partner for the world.
भारत का मेक इन इंडिया प्रोग्राम हमारे देश के डिफेंस प्रोडक्शन को तो मजबूत बना ही रहा है, साथ ही दुनिया की डिफेंस सप्लाई चेन को भी रेजिलिएंट और फ्लेक्सिबल बनाने की कैपेबिलिटी धीरे धीरे बना रहा है। भारत की डिफेंस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कैपेबिलिटीज जहां नेशनल सिक्योरिटी और स्ट्रेटेजिक ऑटोनॉमी के लिए काम कर रही हैं, वहीं ग्लोबल सप्लाई शॉक से मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को इंसुलेट भी कर रही हैं। हमारी गवर्नमेंट देश में डिफेंस सेक्टर को मजबूती देने के पीछे कोई जंग छेड़ने का, कोई वार छेड़ने का हमारा इरादा नहीं है। हमारी डिफेंस कैपेबिलिटीज एक क्रेडिबल डेटरेंस की तरह है, जिसका उद्देश्य पीस एंड ट्रैंक्विलिटी बनाए रखना।
The Indian Met Department has issued an alert for thunderstorm and rain. It said 5 cyclonic circulations are forming in the country. Due to their effect, the weather is likely to be affected in many parts of the country. The Met Department has predicted heavy rains in the eastern and northeastern states for the next 5 days. The department has also issued an alert of severe western disturbance in the western Himalayan region in the coming days. This western disturbance may lead to rainfall in Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh on April 19th. Sailing vessel INSV Tarini crossed the iconic Cape of Good Hope on 17th of April, marking another monumental milestone in the epic circumnavigation journey. Having successfully navigated the challenging waters of the Southern Ocean and crossed the 3 major capes, that is Cape of Good Hope, Cape Leuven and Cape Horn, the crew is now charting a course for India, fueled by determination and adventure. This remarkable feat showcases the crew's exceptional seamanship, resilience and also teamwork, setting a new benchmark for Indian sailing and inspiring a nation. The cruise journey is a testament to India's growing presence in global maritime exploration and adventure. And now we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India. For the first time in its 136-year legacy, India's Singareni Collieries Company Limited began mining activities outside Telangana. The production activities have started in Odisha's Naini coal block on Thursday. With the launch of the Naini coal block, Singareni sets the stage for a new phase of national and international growth while strengthening interstate cooperation and regional development. All India Institute of Medical Sciences AIIMS New Delhi has been named as the 97th best hospital globally in the world's Best Hospitals 2024 ranking by Newsweek and Statista. This prestigious recognition highlights AIIMS' excellence in delivering high-quality healthcare, advancing medical research and providing affordable treatment to millions. The Newsweek Statista ranking has evaluated over 2,400 hospitals across 30 countries based on patient satisfaction, clinical outcomes, hygiene standards and recommendations from healthcare professionals. National Commission for Women Chairperson Vijaya Rahatkar arrived in Kolkata on Thursday evening to lead an inquiry into the recent violence in Murshidabad following protests against the Waqf Amendment Act. Rahatkar, who is part of the probe committee constituted by the NCW, will visit affected areas including Malda and Murshidabad over the next 3 days. The NCW team plans to interact directly with the victims, also document their experiences and recommend necessary protection and rehabilitation measures to the authorities. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, Japan's inflation quickens as rice prices gain the most in over 50 years. Google faces antitrust suit on acquisition of dominating digital advertising that could dent the tech giant's revenue prospects. In sports, Mumbai Indians beat Sunrisers Hyderabad by 4 wickets in the IPL.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get to updates from the world of business now. In a strategic move to strengthen transparency and efficiency in the coal import monitoring, the Ministry of Coal has implemented the Coal Import Monitoring System. By enabling real-time monitoring and informed decision-making in coal import substitution, this initiative represents a significant milestone in the government's vision of ensuring Atmanirbhar Bharat. CIMS is a digital platform developed to streamline the reporting of coal imports, ensuring timely and accurate data for effective policy formulation and also sectoral analysis. Coal importers are now required to register the details of their consignments in the CIMS portal on or prior to the arrival of shipments in the ports in India. Trump insists that he could force out the independent head of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, once again attacking the central bank's chief for his policy on interest rates.
I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me.
Japanese core inflation accelerated in March to 3.2% from 3% in February. The year-on-year rise in consumer prices, excluding fresh food in the world's fourth biggest economy, was in line with market expectations. Excluding energy as well, prices rose 2.9% as compared to 2.6% in February, but overall inflation eased to 3.6% from 3.7%. Grain prices rose 25.4%, with rice prices logging an enormous 92.5% jump. The European Central Bank on Thursday decided to cut key interest rates for the 7th time since June 2024 in response to the negative impact of erratic US tariffs on economic growth across the Eurozone. Following the ECB's adjustment, the deposit facility rate and the interest rate on the main refinancing operations will drop to 2.25% and 2.4% respectively, while the marginal lending facility rate will be reduced to 2.65%. The ECB said the disinflation process remains on track, but warned of increased uncertainty fueled by escalating trade tensions, which are clouding the economic outlook. Also on Thursday, ECB President Christine Lagarde said during a press conference that downside risks to economic growth have increased as a major escalation in global trade tensions and the associated uncertainty will likely lower the euro area growth by dampening exports. It may also drive down investment and consumption, she said. Holiday-themed tradition, in fact, trading kicked off in Asia on Friday with many markets closed for the Easter holiday long weekend. Japan's Nikkei opened 0.06% down. In South Korea, the benchmark Kospi opened 0.07% up. Investors were still keeping an eye on the impact of tariffs as US President Donald Trump signaled a potential end to the tit-for-tat levy hikes between the US and China that had shocked the markets recently. Syrians in the capital Damascus are gathering outside banks to withdraw money from ATMs as the liquidity crisis has forced authorities to drastically limit cash withdrawals, leaving much of the population struggling to make the ends meet. The United Nations stated that years of harsh sanctions on the Assad regime, which the new leadership is now trying to remove, have pushed nearly 90% of the Syrians below the poverty line. A US judge ruled that Google illegally wielded monopoly power in the online ad technology market in a legal blow that could rattle the tech giant's revenue engine. The federal government and more than a dozen US states filed the antitrust suit against Alphabet-owned Google, accusing it of acting illegally to dominate three sectors of digital advertising, that is, publisher ad servers, advertiser tools, and ad exchanges. The judge concluded that Google further entrenched its monopoly power with anti-competitive customer policies and by eliminating desirable product features. Netflix on Thursday reported quarterly earnings slightly better than analysts expected, saying it is staying focused on what it can control as the overall economy is roiled by US President Trump's trade war. The streaming television service declared itself off to a good start in 2025 with profit of $2.9 billion on revenue of $10.5 billion in the first quarter of the year. Shares in the Silicon Valley-based company were up nearly 3% in the aftermarket trades. Netflix has been steadily improving its ad platform as viewers continue to turn away from traditional television to streaming shows on demand. And you're watching DD India News Hour. We'll now get you sports updates. An all-round show from Will Jacks powered Mumbai Indians to a 4-wicket win over Sunrisers Hyderabad in their IPL match on Thursday. After restricting Sunrisers Hyderabad to 162 for 5, Mumbai Indians chased down the target with 11 balls remaining. The win marked Mumbai Indians' third victory in this season's IPL, elevating them to 7th position with 6 points, while Hyderabad remained at 9th position with 4 points. Mumbai's Will Jacks showed an all-round performance after he struck 2 for 14 before top scoring with a 26-ball 36 runs. Meanwhile, for Sunrisers Hyderabad, Abhishek Sharma top scored with 40 runs, while Hendrik Klaassen contributed 37 runs in their total. Ace Indian QS Saurav Kothari clinched the 2025 IBSF World Billiards title after an out-and-out victory over multiple-time winner Pankaj Advani in the final in Ireland. The Q Sports would witness an unforgettable clash between the two of India's finest, Kothari and Advani, for the coveted title at the Snooker and Billiards Ireland Academy. 40-year-old Kothari emerged as the champion, scoring 725 points to Advani's 480. His brilliant break of 325 was the standout moment of the match, and it was one of the finest efforts in recent championship history. Kothari also notched up breaks of 119 and 112, showcasing exceptional composure, focus and cue control. All right, on to tennis now. Carlos Alcaraz overcame a second set wobble to defeat Laszlo Dier 6-2, 6-4 on Thursday to reach the Barcelona Open quarterfinals. Alcaraz won the tournament in 2022 and 2023 and needed only 71 minutes to finish Dier. Home favourite Alcaraz saved both breakpoints which he faced in the first set stall, with Dier unable to produce a single winner. The 4-time Grand Slam winner won 5 games straight to claim a 4-set lead. In the second set also, Alcaraz bounced back quickly after Dier offered more of a fight. Alcaraz will next face 5th seed Alex de Minaur in the quarterfinal match on Friday. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi penned down a heartfelt letter to Indian women's hockey stalwart Vandana Kataria, recognizing her outstanding contributions to Indian hockey. The hockey stalwart expressed her heartfelt gratitude to Prime Minister Modi after receiving a personal letter of appreciation on the occasion of her retirement from international hockey. In a social media post, Vandana said it was a proud moment for her to receive such recognition from Prime Minister. On April 1st, the 32-year-old forward officially announced her retirement from international hockey, bringing to a close a remarkable career that began in 2009. Vandana retired as India's most capped women's hockey player with 320 international appearances and 158 goals, leaving behind a legacy unmatched in the country's hockey history. Spanish tennis legend Rafael Nadal is set to be honored on the opening day of this year's French Open. The 38-year-old Nadal won 14 of his 22 majors at Roland-Garros in Paris, but suffered his earliest exit after a first-round defeat by Alexander Zverev last year. He did not say then if it was the last time that his adoring Parisian fans would watch him in action at the major. However, the Spaniard retired from professional tennis later at Davis Cup finals in November. American great tennis legend Serena Williams questioned the preferential treatment meted out to male players. Williams, who won 23 Grand Slam titles, underlined the difference while talking about men's world number one Yannick Sinner's doping ban. Williams said that she would have been banned for 20 years and stripped of her Grand Slam titles had she failed the drug tests like Sinner did last year. World number one Sinner is currently serving a 3-month ban for closterball use. The 3-month ban was handed to him by the World Anti-Doping Agency after both the parties reached an agreement. The 23-year-old had 2 positive drug tests in 2024. Today, Christians around the world are marking Good Friday, one of the most sacred days in the Christian calendar. Why is it called Good Friday despite being a sad and sorrowful day? Many believe that the origin of Good Friday is from the English term God's Friday. All over the world, people stop on this day, Good Friday, to remember, grieve, reflect, and to hope.
Good Friday commemorates the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, a central figure in Christianity. According to Christian belief, Jesus, who is the second person of the Holy Trinity, was executed by crucifixion more than 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem. His death is seen not just as a moment of loss, but as an act of sacrifice and love believed to have been for the forgiveness of humanity's sins. On this day, churches around the world hold solemn services, prayers, and reenactments of Jesus' final hours. In many countries, processions are held in the streets, and some believers fast or reflect in silence. Despite being called Good Friday, the day remembers a painful and tragic event. But Christians call it good because it represents hope, the belief that Jesus' death led to new life, a message that will be celebrated on Easter Sunday. From small villages to major cities, today is a day of reflection, faith, and remembrance, uniting millions across cultures and continents. Good Friday is observed by nearly 2.4 billion Christians worldwide. And while customs vary, the message at the heart is the same, one of sacrifice, love, and hope. Bureau Report, DD India.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi remembered the courage and sacrifices of Jesus Christ on Good Friday. Taking on to social media platform X, Prime Minister said, and I quote him, "On Good Friday, we remember the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. This day inspires us to cherish kindness, compassion, and always be large-hearted. May the spirit of peace and togetherness always prevail." Prayers and processions depicting the way of the cross are being organized across the state of Kerala by its various Christian denominations. In Thiruvananthapuram, devotees took part in the Way of the Cross procession from St. Joseph's Cathedral in Palayam, organized jointly by the 3 denominations under the Catholic fold. The procession was attended by Cardinal Bezelos Clemus and the Archbishop Thomas Neto. Good Friday services are being held in churches across the state on the day marking the countdown to Easter Sunday. India's Ministry of External Affairs has slammed Bangladesh for the comments made by its officials on the developments in West Bengal. ME official spokesperson Randir Jaiswal said, and I quote, "We reject the remarks made by Bangladesh side with regard to the incidents in West Bengal. This is a barely disguised and disingenuous attempt to draw a parallel with India's concerns over the ongoing persecution of minorities in Bangladesh, where the criminal perpetrators of such acts continue to roam free. Instead of making unwarranted comments and indulging in virtue signaling, Bangladesh would do better to focus on protecting the rights of its own minorities. And I unquote. All right, that's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.